Greetings to everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode in season one of Not Your Cliché Conversations with Tarini. I'm your host, Tarini Padmanabhuni, and today we have an incredibly talented young guest who's already made significant strides in the tech world. At just 16, Siddharth Pilli has established himself as Asia's youngest data scientist. He's worked on various impactful projects and has been recognized widely for his contributions to AI and data science. From developing AI solutions for educational platforms to freelancing for international advisory firms, Siddharth's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. So let's dive into his inspiring story, uncover the secrets behind his remarkable achievements, and get to know the story behind this young whiz who started his journey as a data scientist at the sheer age of 12 years old. Hi, Siddharth. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Siddharth. Actually, a great introduction has been given by you itself, so there's not much more to say. But yeah, I'm Siddharth Pilli. I'm 16 years old. I actually recently finished my 11th grade, and right now I'm working with IIT Hyderabad as a machine learning engineer. And yeah, actually, I've worked with more companies like Infinity Learn, Montaigne Smart Business Solutions. I also worked with universities like IIIT Hyderabad before, and one more project with IIT Hyderabad before that. And in my sidelines, I also do freelancing, where I do freelancing for finance-based, stock-based company like Righteous USA, which exists in Houston, Texas. And with that, I actually also have a few apps which me and my few friends have created. Have this app called Universes, which is an AI college counselor, helps you with all your college counseling queries. And I also created something called Notely, which is available on Notely.in, where this is like your own study tutor. So if you want to have any personalized class notes or any subjects notes created for you, Notely will help you on that. So that's a few of the apps and stuff I'm building. I'm also building this one tool with one of my friend called Trishanu, which is an sign language detection, where we're building these clouds that can translate American Sign Language into actual words. So yeah, those that's just a bit about me.
Amazing, amazing. It's awesome to hear about all your projects that you worked on at this your age. So it's pretty inspirational for a lot of the viewers watching who are interested in the fields of tech. So that's nice. Let's get to the early beginnings of that. So, can you share with us how your journey in data science began? So, like, what sparked your interest in AI and machine learning at such a young age? That too. So, you told me you started coding at 9, if I'm not wrong.
Seven actually, but
7, yeah, my bad. So,
uh,
7 years old, and you got your first job at 12, right? So, how did you get into AI? How did you get into coding in the first place? Could you share that? And then, how did you get into AI and machine learning or data science?
uh, yeah. So yeah, normally when I was seven, that's actually when I started programming and all. So my dad's a software engineer, so he knows how to dabble in code here and there. So that's good. That's on to him. But yeah, so my dad taught me some coding here and there, mainly because for the sake that I used to play like a lot of games back then when I was seven. There were a lot of games. I played Half-Life. I played some. I played some lot of Subway Surfers here and there as well, but those were what you can call humble beginnings for my coding journey. But yeah, when I used to play these games, there was a small thought that occurred that how exactly these games were made and all. Because as a seven-year-old kid, I can't exactly figure out how these games were made back then. I'm just amazed by I can just move characters up, forward, here and there. So that was happy enough for me already. But when I had this question on how exactly these games are made, I just asked my dad, and he explained me that these games were made using the concept of like coding, and that's where I understood. Okay, so this thing called coding, where we actually write some instructions to computer, it actually understands and gives us some sort of output for us to actually use. So that concept really interested me, because I thought then there's literally n number of possibilities. Like there's so much potential where I can literally do anything I want with a computer and some code out there. So that really interested me, and that's when I also started some coding. And I didn't make some advanced apps. The apps which I made was simple. I made some simple like a restaurant management tool, and I made like a cookie clicker on like Java and like applets back then. Yeah, they were basically my first few apps, which you can call them apps with whatever I made using programming languages back then. And Java was my first language, of course. And from there, then I moved into exploring more domains like Python and AM, sorry, Python and all. Where the reason why I wanted to start using Python was because it's super easy to use, unlike Java with all those syntaxes, which I sort of really hate. Now I think about it, but yeah, Python's like a really cool language. It's simple, it's easy to use, and anyone can start learning it fast as well. And even the potential for Python, where you can do anything with it. Literally, you can make some web apps, you can make some desktop apps, mobile apps even. And oh, and how Google is also like people are making so many libraries just for like the whole machine learning and AI frameworks out there. That's even bigger potential. So that's where I started learning Python. I learned some web development frameworks like Django and Flask, and then I remember, yeah, I moved on to AI. That's a whole another different story because thing was, I think Audi and something like Nvidia had this collaboration where they had launched self-driving cars back then, and the concept of self-driving cars is phenomenal because uh, until then, because for me, I thought computers worked in a way where I just give it some set of commands, it understands it, and gives the output at the end of the day. But a computer just trying to understand itself, like having a mind of its own and controlling something was super cool actually. So that's where I first discovered on what exactly AI or machine learning is, like how exactly is the computer figuring this out, understood the concepts behind that, read some blogs, articles, and yeah, like that's really how I got into AI. So that's yeah.
So, what was the reason you started off with Java first? Did your father push you to do Java first, or did you understand that a lot of games are built by Java? Or what was that choice for?
No, no, Java is really a headache actually. But when people
I
know,
know.
yeah. There's not many apps. I know there are few apps out there which are powered by Java and all, but I feel like I haven't come it's most like ATMs and all, I guess, all these embedded systems didn't use Java a lot, but I never assumed that people would actually want to use Java for a production. I know some people do, but it occurs kind of weird for me. But the reason why I started learning Java was my dad is into like Selenium and QA testing. He's into automation testing side. So he knew a lot of Java back then, at least with his own Selenium framework. So he taught me Java at least in like in simple terms. I remember the whole installations of like Java SDK, the JVMs and Eclipse back then. That was kind of cool. But yeah, mainly because my dad was into Selenium and all, I thought he started teaching me coding. Although Java was definitely not a good beginner programming language. It never is because the syntax too hard and it literally forces you to use a lot of oops concepts out there, and that's
Yeah.
really hard to begin. There's too much boilerplate code. Yeah.
Awesome. It's actually people usually start off with Python. So at 7, you started off with Java, which is kind of cool that you still continued and you were like, no, I'm still interested in coding. This is not too tough for me. Great. Awesome. So and that's nice. So you spoke about how you also got an interest in machine learning and AI when you started learning about self-driving cars, NVIDIA and Audi's collaboration and stuff. That piqued a lot of your interest, right? So
Yeah.
in the initial stages, now you've accomplished a lot. You've gotten a lot of work experience. You've done so many projects. You've put yourself out there. You've gotten a lot of media recognition and all of that, right? You've accomplished so much at 16, and you have a lot more as well to do. But in the initial stages, I'm sure you might have faced a lot of criticism and hesitance and even feedback from people around you. So just like the driverless car that you get feedback from, even the people around you give you a lot of feedback in the beginning, and sometimes it doesn't tend to be great feedback, right? How did you deal with that, especially as a youngster? So a lot of people will be like, don't, why are you doing all this, go out and play, stuff like that.
Mm.
So what was the situation like? How did you continue to pique your interest in the full amount?
I mean, yeah, I guess when I was like I guess when I was coding, I don't really think people had issue. They thought it's kind of cool, like code and all. But I guess when I first got selected into to work as a data scientist in like a startup company, I guess people were not too risky. I mean, sure, they were really excited for me and they were happy for me, but they had this like back thought peek in the head, like how can he even manage? Like he has to do studies, and I was like, for me, I never really felt that as an issue because I know people have their own passions. Where some might like music, some might do guitar, some might do gaming, and also everyone has their own thing, I suppose. And for me, coding and actually trying to solve problems was kind of cool. It was my thing really, and I thought maybe doing an internship or working in a company would actually help me gain my skills better. Honestly, I mean that's what I thought, and just the sake that the whole environment of a company was cool. It's cool as well because I get to hang out with these developers every day. They teach me some new stuff, and that was like cool. I didn't exactly find an issue with that, and managing my studies, and I didn't even feel an issue with that as well because I still had my time to do my homeworks. I still had time to attend classes, and also nothing really felt an issue. And honestly, at the times I had to work in my first company was super cool, and I still relive those moments. But I know there was some criticism here and there on how I can manage stuff, but yeah, end of the day, I did manage, and I'm here, I guess.
And that's all that matters. So it's fine. Great. So let's talk about your first experience in your job, right? So you were 12 when you had your first experience. Was it offline or online?
It was online until COVID strike. But, yeah. No, I mean it was offline until COVID strike. My bad.
Okay, okay. So your first experience as such was offline, right? How was that like? You were working probably with people who are twice your age, right? Twice and more. So how was that experience like? Did you get a lot of attention? Of course, you must have gotten attention. How did you deal with that attention? What was that whole feeling like? How did you navigate
Yeah,
through
I
that?
mean, yeah, I mean, actually, I mean, the first time I actually walked into the office and all was, I mean, I was again a super introverted, awkward kid back then. I was just 12 years old, so there's not much to expect from me. But when I actually started walking and started talking to people, it felt really cool because um, I don't know. I mean, at that point, I felt like the only person who I can talk about coding and all was my dad. And finally, me just getting into a lot of people who actually code as a code as a livelihood. Just talking to them felt it felt good actually. And most of times I don't think I was like a really good coder back then. I remember doing a lot of mistakes and a lot of bugs back when I was like 12 years old. But yeah, I remember like a lot of my I wouldn't say favorite, but a lot of my like good colleagues and all like Satya, Akshay and Happy. These people are really cool. They explain me coding a lot, and I didn't exactly know DSS back then as well. So they taught me how like things like maps, queues, hash maps, and also they were the first people to actually give me like a traditional outlook into how computer science really is like. So yeah, that was really cool, and they helped me a lot as well. So a lot of where of my coding skills or this computing skills I got was from my experience in my first company. So yeah, I'm always glad for that.
Awesome. Great. So you spoke about how your dad was such a huge influence in your entire journey, and he was the one who motivated you to start coding in the first place. So could you speak more about how your dad, like basically your dad's influence in your entire journey, or any other mentors as well that you want to speak about in this entire journey that you felt like played a very pivotal role? And you can also mention what role they played, and what is that upskilling that they did? Like you just mentioned your friends from your first company, that your colleagues from your first company that helped you,
Mm.
learn conventional CS. So stuff like that from your other mentors or resources, share them. And even if it can also be like online resources, YouTube channels and stuff like that. So stuff like that can help the audience also. You can go ahead and share about the education, the learning aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, I'd say, of course, my dad actually in starting really helped me out a lot in coding because, again, I was just I would say teenager who didn't know much a lot. So most of the time, my dad was just beside me, helping me understand what each syntax means or what each sort of line of statements will mean. So that was like really helpful back then. Slowly, I never outgrew him. He's still like 1,000 times better coder than me. He knows how to solve lead code problems even better than me at this point. So I'm not gonna take any backlash. But yeah, my dad's always a great mentor. He always helped me in coding and all. And even in my first company, people like Satya, Happy, and Akshay as well. They played like really a pivotal role in my whole computer science journey. And even this my CEO and the company, Rohit. He's also like a really great person. He helped me. I really like. I like to think of him as one of my biggest mentors as well because, uh, like I did some. I really got some really great exposure to computer science back then as well. He gave me some cool projects to work on. I built some websites, apps here and there. So yeah, that was really it was like he was. I would say he was actually one of my first mentors at that point. And from there, I did go into working with other companies like Infinity Learn and all. And my first exposure to even deep learning and computer science was to my professor Vinithan Balasubramaniam sir. He's the AI. He's one of the professors on AI at IIT Hyderabad. So I worked under him actually on a project called plant phenotyping, where we basically had to create this machine learning model that can analyze how many number of leaves are in like an image. So I sort of worked in that project, and it's actually a competition by Gilly challenges, like a data challenge. And for this data challenge, they wanted which model can score the best accuracy. And my model came. I used like an exception architecture, which gave me like a second rank on the leaderboard. So yeah, that's one thing. And yeah, and yeah, throughout my entire in tenure with Vinit sir was amazing because he taught me a lot of stuff. Even I think his student as well, Akshay Chandra, he was also a super cool person. He taught me some how I can make my model better with like augmentations and also that was cool. So and yeah, that's mainly who I would say people who really influenced me in the concepts of like computer science here and there. And one more thing was that online resources because even though my dad definitely helped me in terms, he has to his own work as well. So I had to depend a lot on online resources like YouTube and some other courses. But few of the courses which I found super helpful was CS50 by Harvard. Actually, that was actually an amazing course because David, I think is the instructor name. Sorry, the instructor's name is super cool at teaching like computer science. He explains programming a lot. He actually starts from the scratch by the scratch programming language. He starts from there, explains PHP, SQL, Python, and just goes on. So that was a really good resource by the way. I think it is by Harvard, yeah. And one more was by Andrew Ng, the machine learning course. It's in Coursera, but I don't think if it's in Coursera anymore. I remember he has his own website called deeplearning.ai, where Andrew Ng made this amazing machine learning course on helping anyone. I think even a person who has never done coding understand machine learning because that course is less about programming and more into mathematics also. So it explains
Yeah.
concepts like what exactly is machine learning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, different types of loss functions or optimization functions. Amazing course actually. And if anyone actually wants to learn AI or machine learning has never learned any of these concepts, so this is like an amazing starter course. And finally, for like computer vision, because that's kind of where I'm also into because most of the projects I work under comes under deep learning and computer vision. CS231N by Stanford, like CS231N, like the alphabet N by Stanford. That was like a good course as well. They explain a lot about how about like deep learning and computer vision. Even the main instructor, Fifi Lee, I think the main instructor behind the course. I'm pretty sure she was one of the contributors for ImageNet, like one of the biggest databases for like whole image classification. All I think she was one of the collaborators or even founding members of that. So yeah, I think these three courses are like super set courses for anyone getting into computer science or machine learning or even computer vision as beginner terms. I have like few more courses for like even the NPTEL course by Vineet sir. That's a super course as well. Like I
For
really love
AI.
that. It's for the computer vision actually, but is it for AI? Uh, Subramanian. Oh yeah, it is for deep learning for computer vision. It's a
Yeah.
really good course as well. So yeah.
Amazing. So these are some, stuff that you would abide by and you would 100% suggest for people to excel in computer vision or
Mm.
AI or ML, right?
The problem is when I was first starting, there were too many obstacles because I would sort of divert from like one article to other article to one course to other course. Like there was never structure. I think that I felt like one of the biggest mistakes when I first started coding. So I would say this sort of courses to follow is much better than what you can get outside. At least it worked great for me. Maybe others have some different ways of learning, but these are some really good courses to start off.
Right. Awesome. Okay, so I think that was a very informational section. Um, let's move on to the next part, which is basically about your professional journey. So, you got your first opportunity when you were 12. So, a little bit about the opportunity itself, your role, what you performed, and we'll go like that for each and every other opportunity, how you got it, what your role entailed, and basically, your learnings throughout the experience. So we'll go like that for each of your experiences. So let's start off with your first experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, my first experience was a Montaigne Smart Business Solutions, like my first startup was at there. And yeah, I worked as a data science associate at that company. And normally, I mostly have done some scraping jobs where I had to go to different these kind of like connectivity sites and scrape some data for like analytics and all. So I have done that. And one more thing I have done is basically there is this thing called I mean to understand different what do you call correlations between different data. So there's this private data which you have gathered from the actual website, and also we use this data to make some correlations to understand more about the user. So that's a few things I've done. So mainly it's always about creating business models in that company. So yeah, that's mostly what I worked on there. It was
Is it
either mostly
somewhat
analytics
related
and
to
correlations.
thing? I might be wrong.
I'm
Is it
sorry.
somewhat related to recommendation engine type of thing?
Not exactly recommendation engine because we haven't exactly developed any models specifically for like
Yeah.
because the
Right.
product Mountain Smart Business Solutions is kind of like a product and service based company. So most of
Okay.
them they had their own product called Lead Mirror, which is like a digital marketing agency sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, so there's no recommendation systems, but mainly of it's a lot of analytics really. That's mostly what it is. And
And
we had to use the correlation models here and there to understand those analytics better. So that's kind of what I would sum it up as.
all right. So how did you get your first gig? Did you ask your parents, beg them, please, I have the skills, I want to use it somewhere, or how is it? Like, I mean, you were still very young, so it must have been very hard to do it all on your own. So, any
Uh,
like, what was the kind of like approach that you took for it for any youngster who wants to get into this fields at a young age?
hmm. Well, for me back then, there was a bit of convincing. Yes, I agree. So what I thought was like again, I was a very outlandish teenager with maybe a wise enough mind, but what I thought was that maybe I can just send off my resume and people will start calling me for jobs, and they did. Like they sort of did. But when I actually had to answer the calls, so thing is when I made my resume, it was a really bad resume. I don't exactly want to show that, but when I first made it, I just included like seventh grade, I think, in my resume, like seventh grade. Now that's when the headshots, I guess, when they first called me, they got confused, saying that if I was actually like seventh
Mm.
grade in like secondary education or like seventh grade in like what BTech or something,
Yeah.
like seventh semester. Yeah, they asked about that, and I explained them, no, I'm actually like seventh grade, like secondary. My voice made it a bit more obvious back then, but yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess most of the calls were ignored in that aspect. But I mean, that changed until actually one of like my family relative knew about me that I was into like coding and all. So he also knew I was actually looking for jobs to at least test out my practical knowledge and all. So through like a family referral, they went through knowing that Montaigne actually was in need of like data scientists. So yeah, I just sort of the CEO basically called my dad saying that if you can actually come to the office. And also I went on like a Saturday, I remember that. So I went on the CEO, and everyone had this, like even the developers just came around me, just had like a small discussion, explain with me. I just showcased some of my projects, they asked me some questions, and yeah, that's kind of how it started really.
Amazing, amazing. Great. So that's your first experience, and you finally got it after all the HR rejections because they thought you were in seventh semester
Mm.
and all of that, right? Awesome. Let's move on to your next experience then. So, what was your next experience? And again, the same process. You can explain
Yeah.
it to the audience.
I think after Montaigne, my second was at IIT Hyderabad. So so IIT Hyderabad, the way I approached the IIT was kind of normal actually. I knew basically my aunt who works at IIT, she told me that normally IIT Hyderabad like sort of has this internship for summer interns. Normally in every summer they open like fellowship programs. So I thought that was kind of cool and I applied for the fellowship program. So when I applied for the fellowship program, I remember I sent across a mail to Vineet sir and also the director of IITs explaining about my profile, like where I told them that I'm a 12-year-old student, and actually I was 13 years old. So in my bad, I was actually 13 years old back then. So I told them I was like a 13-year-old kid, and I was actually looking to use my skills at IIT Hyderabad through the summer internship program. And that's when I think that's when the director has uh, like I think forwarded my profile to Vineet sir, who is the AI she still is, of course, the head professor of AI in IIT Hyderabad right now. So the profile got forwarded. Vineet sir saw me, and I had a call with sir, like again, like super influential figure for me still actually. So so I had a conversation with sir, and then Vineet sir put me forward with his PhD student called Akshay L. Chandra. I think he was a PhD student. So yeah, he put me across with Akshay L. Chandra. Where he explained me on what projects I can work on. So back then, I was doing this plant phenotyping projects, like I mentioned, where Germany hosts a German company called Julie Challenges hosted this data challenge called a leaf counting challenge, where we basically had to count the number of leaves and like images and also. So that's basically what I did at IIT Hyderabad. Yeah. And yeah, so after my model got through to the actual competition, like I said, I used an exceptional creation. I got something like a 0.68 mean absolute error as my loss function. And that gave me second on the leaderboard. I think it was like 100 people plus competition, and I ranked up on like second. So yeah, I was happy with
And
that, and that's kind
all
of
of
into
this
my IIT Hyderabad. Yeah.
all of this at 13. So, just to note
Ah,
for the audience. Amazing. So, by the time you got your second experience, I'm sure your first experience, resume experience especially, must have taught you a lot. So, what was
mm,
the changes you made in your resume in particular? Because you mentioned there were a few things that you realized would not be a beneficial thing to add. So, for any of our viewers who are young and wanting to pursue such a stream, what would you suggest as some very important tips if they want to go around cold emailing people for opportunities
mm.
with respect to their CVs or resumes?
Of course. I mean, one thing I realized throughout my experience is that I know it might work for some people, but I never thought that actually applying for a job is going to get you a job. It was never really the case for me. I think it's where if you're maybe friends with if you have some connections into like CEOs or actually people working there, and if you can approach with them profile or actually even give them your skills as freelancing, I think that's like a better way of getting hired in my opinion because I guess interviews and applications and all, they take a lot of time where you don't exactly get across to the employer or that person as you with skills. You just come across as a person who's applying for jobs. I mean, I know that's what you want end of the day, but to showcase yourself better, I think actually getting into connection, talking, showing them your profile and showing them your skills, that feels better in my opinion. I mean, it worked out for me really. So yeah. And I know most of the time we don't come across like serious connections super easily.
Hmm.
Again, mainly
But it's
make your LinkedIn profile more approachable, and also that's one way to do it. So yeah,
right.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Before
And
we
yeah,
move on,
talking to say, I think I completely ignored the question actually about the resume. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, back then when I was starting, I really didn't know much about resumes. What I thought was I actually went to online to see some sample resumes and then sort of edit them. So that's what I normally did. So the mistake what I did was I added like Microsoft Office Word and skills back then. So yeah, don't do that. It's not really it doesn't showcase much, and it's better to keep them more deliberate, I would say. So adding your actual skills like maybe DSAs or maybe some algorithms actually worked on, maybe libraries framework. That seems more better, not Word or Google Docs doesn't seem like the best case. And it makes sense because I don't you don't exactly want an employer or a person who approach to be seeing you having a and list slash skill out there. So yeah, just don't do that.
Yeah, I think that was great advice. A lot of people tend to put Word and Excel and all of that in
Hmm.
their skills. So, great advice. Before we move on to your third experience, an audience member has a question. So, let me show it. Yes. So, one of our audience members has asked, could you also ask what he would recommend to a person who's willing to start coding as a complete beginner? So, yeah, I think you mentioned it again.
Okay.
You could just give it briefly. It would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm smiling because actually I know this one of my friends. I'm just smiling for that. So,
Oh, great.
yeah. So I know
I'm sure a lot
coding
of
as
audience have the same question. So it's okay.
uh, I mean, yeah, like I'm sure coding is kind of a hard skill to start at the beginning because at this point there are too many buzzwords as well. Like back then, I know, like back then I think coding was more simpler because it was straightforward. But now there are too many buzzwords like AI, ML, blockchain, web development, full stack. There are too many buzzwords, which makes it really complicated for everyone to even understand where to start. So I'd suggest maybe with the course I already told, like maybe CS50. I think CS50. So if you want to understand coding, maybe computer science here and there, I think CS50 is the best course to start off with. I know it might be a difficult concept. It may be difficult to first understand and go through at first, but trust me, I think CS50 to which David, the professor, I think he has made the course. He explains the concept really well. I think it's first important to, even before knowing this coding and all. I think it's first important to understand how a computer works or how a compiler works before actually getting into it, because that gives you a better sense on what you're trying to do instead of just randomly creating apps. And it just gives you a better understanding of what it is and what you're trying to accomplish out of it. So try CS50, like an amazing course. Always start. You can just start off with that. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So your third experience, we'll move to that now. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's
Yeah.
basically as a data science associate at Infinity Learn, right? So you could speak about that experience again, same order.
Yeah. So yeah. My third experience, of course, I worked as like a data scientist at Infinity Learn, and at Infinity Learn, that was also again super cooperative. Was kind of really cool as well. Most of them I've worked in this thing Infinity Learn in the terms of like analytics as well. So basically, what we did was there was this huge sums of data, and this sort of data was aggregated into different of course places. One was in like Mongo, one was in like SQL. It was super headache. It was actually a big headache actually. So what our main motive was that let's try to first make a good data warehouse where we can first segregate this data, get them into like one specific place where staging can then add up. Staging can then there was actually two main problems. I'll just explain this better. So one in SQL was kind of the data where it's not live. It's not exactly a live data. It's basically more about the users and all. And Mongo does kind of like a live data. So what we had to do was we had to sort of consolidate these two data together so we can do analytics on them. But the problem was because there's an overlap between existing data and live data, we had to do like a refresh. So that had to be done on like a cron job. So that's something I worked on, concepts of like data warehousing, and I mostly worked on creating like analytics because people like the in the company, the higher ups like the CEOs and the main marketing motive, people mainly wanted some analytics and maybe some dashboards here and there. So we had to use tools like Power BI and some Tableau here and there to create some dashboards which can be presentable for these guys. And from there, we also made some recommender systems, like I mentioned to you. So we made some sort of like recommender systems for suggesting like better JE and NEET courses. So that's kind of what I worked on at like Infinity Law.
Awesome. So that was your first experience into the edtech world, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. We'll move on to the next experience, which is as a freelancer at Right Choice USA. So you can go ahead and speak about that as
Mm,
well.
yes. Yeah. So basically, I also worked as like a freelancer at Righteous USA. So Righteous USA is basically the stocks and finance-based company based out of like Houston, Texas. The founder of Righteous USA, I know him very well, is Kishore Ramraji sir, and not only for freelancing, I also worked on actually training as well, where I taught like students in like US and all Python programming and data science. So I have done that under him as well. So but for freelancing at Reuters USA, what I have done is that normally there's different types of like alerts. We normally call it stock halt alerts exactly. Or if there's maybe like a stock which is halted, these types of alerts are necessary for the traders to know. So what I did was I made some bots that can send out like halt alerts. I also made some trading bots that based on a certain like based on certain operations like if it reaches like a certain threshold price, the stock can automatically be bought or sold for a certain person in Righteous USA. Made bots like that, and we also had plans on making bots for the bullish and bearish indicators. So that's also something which I have worked on. So all of these to make them more user friendly, we have placed them as Telegram bots. So all these Telegram bots were kind of built by me for like like trading and all. So that's kind of what I did there.
Awesome. We'll move to our next experience, which I think you can delve into a little bit more. So you were a research engineer at IIT Hyderabad. So you can give us,
Yes. So
in-depth experience and talk to the audience about if they were to pursue such an internship at a coveted place like IIT Hyderabad, how should they go about it and stuff like that.
got it. Yeah. No, I think Tribali Hyderabad is also one of the coolest places where I have worked because, yeah, normally in Tribali Hyderabad worked as a research engineer, where they had this project called EDRI, Earthquake Disaster Risk Index. So EDRI Earthquake Disaster Risk Index is basically like a scale where it gives based on like different aspects of structure. Maybe it's like roof aspects, maybe the staircases, maybe the building quality. We take all of these factors into like one algorithm, and this algorithm helps us understand. This algorithm helps us understand. Sorry, this algorithm generates us a value called EDRI, or could just a risk index value, through which we can plot this in an EDRI scale to understand how like risk prone is the structure to an earthquake or not. So that's one of the projects I have built there. No, I haven't created the actual scale. The scale was created by Professor Pradeep Ramachandra. So the sir has created the scale for doing this as the risk index. The mainly what I have done was actually implementing computer vision here because we wanted to understand to automate the data collection process where if maybe a civil inspector out there, if you actually wanted to do like an EDI survey of a structure, all you can do is you can take like a drone or some sort of camera to go around the building and take photos. And these photos taken by a civil inspector through AI and some computer vision models, this can be the data like how many floors are there, maybe what's the roof size, maybe what's the adjacent distance between like one building to another building. So these sorts of values can be calculated more easily. So that's kind of what I was into. And I also created like a mobile app. It's still not launched yet, but I created this mobile app specifically for both Android and I used like Flutter, which basically can be helpful for civil inspectors to take uh, pictures of these different aspects of a building, maybe write some data, and finally click on generate to generate like a complete EDRI survey plot basically. So that's kind of what I did at Triple IT Hyderabad. So the product is, I mean, the whole EDRI is currently being built under by NDMA, the National Disaster Management Authority of India, signed by Amit Shah. So they're basically taking care for the actual launch. But yeah, that's my project is involves with mobile application and the deep learning computation aspects of it.
Amazing. Uh, we'll move on to the next part. Before that, I just wanted to ask, so out of all of these experiences so far, what did you feel was the most unique, or I mean, I'm sure everything is amazing and great and learning experience for you, but Uh, what would you say was an edge above the rest, and why? So, what do you think was the X factor in that whole experience?
Yeah, hard to say, but I'd probably say something like Tribari Hyderabad. I think on its own it was. I think even IIT Hyderabad. I cannot exactly differentiate between Tribari and IIT because I normally have this tendency where I love to work with universities because just going around the campus, talking to students and all that was super cool for me. It's so insightful as well. So that's the best places for me. So I cannot top it off between Tribali Hyderabad and IIT Hyderabad, but I'd say both of them are one of the most unique experiences for me because it didn't exactly feel in the side of just developing some random. I know it's even the corporate companies like Infinity Learn and Montaigne was super cool, but for universities, oh sorry, yeah, for universities where I can actually interact with professors, know what their ideology is, how they actually want to make change for the world, and all that. That seems super cool and all. Even the projects like EDR or plant phenotyping, or actually, I also got again. I recently got offer letter to work at IT Hyderabad again as a AI CEO engineer. So yeah, that's one thing. So for this new opportunity, working in more projects on for the whole environment sustainability, these things are super cool for me. So yeah, I see IIT Hyderabad and Triple can never be topped off at least. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's move on to the next question, which is your next latest experience, which is as the co-founder of Universe's app. So after all those corporate and research experiences, you decided to delve into
Mm.
co-founding your own company. So what was that experience like? How come you came to the conclusion of starting your own company? Who did you start it with? Yeah, just a little bit about that whole process so our viewers can understand and pick your
Uh,
brain.
Yeah, so Universe as an app was it's still an amazing experience. Like now, I still think about it every day. But last year it was like 2023 summers, the same time really on it was like May 2nd and all. So my friend Hamish actually came up with the idea where he's actually he got selected into he was applying for colleges back then actually, and he realized that applying to colleges in the US and all seems super expensive, and talking to your guidance counselors to understand which colleges are suitable for you, or just trying to get a gist of what colleges are and how they can support your major and all seems super complicated because even then approaching a guidance counselors or approaching these college counseling companies, you had to pay like ton of money for it. And I remember paying college counseling was something like 10, 20, not 20, but like 10 lakhs still, I think, for applying like 10 different colleges. It's still expensive. And we realized that, oh yeah, and we realized that AI could be super helpful here. So what we thought of, let's create this AI app where people can come to our apps, talk to a bot where talk to a bot. I'm sorry. Yeah, talk to a bot where the bot can understand what the user is looking for, understand his scores, his test scores, his exams, his all of his own like extracurriculars. It tries to understand all of this and suggest some colleges like maybe you have better chances into getting into things like MIT, maybe Georgia Tech, maybe Northwestern. So it'll tell you which universities you can get into, and if you maybe have doubts into the university, like what's the tuition fee, are they need blind basis, or more questions like that, universities can answer that as well. Right now, universities is just a bit offline because we have some maintenance issues, but yeah, it'll be online in like no time soon. But yeah, but the whole concept of like universities was super amazing for me because I was just like I was starting, I just completed my 10th grade back then with summer holidays. So starting like a company in like a week and making an app in like a week, then approaching people, talking to people, and spending nights just coding around. That was super cool for me. And I still remember. The whole building of universes. We're just three friends like me, Hamish, Ruchit, and we just coded like hell. We sent emails, and yeah, still a beautiful experience, I guess.
Amazing. Awesome. Um, that's awesome. It's nice to see your progress from, guy who wanted to code to building his own application in a company. That's pretty nice and quite inspiration for a lot of our viewers. So lots to take from that. Let's move on to the next part of it, which is basically uh, what we like to call usually like a section of tips, tricks, and tutorials for the audience. So
Mm.
throughout the podcast, of course, you mentioned quite a few tips and suggestions and stuff like that. You gave a few resources, but for anyone wanting to scale in the tech world, in particularly, uh, the world of a data scientist or into AI and ML, what are some tips and tricks you would give? You can make it even more specific to someone who is a young enthusiast, so they can learn from your experience even more. And of course, even college going students who are looking out actively to get into internships.
Yeah, yeah, I guess if it comes like tips and tricks, I would say mainly build a better profile of yours, like a better profile of yourself actually. That really matters a lot. Like at starting, I didn't exactly think about it. I know I could have approached people more better and all, but I think you have to always build a better profile of yourself. Where make a better LinkedIn profile, and we just try to make posts often. I don't really make posts often, but I really have to take my word for it on that. But yeah, so make often LinkedIn posts, write some articles here and there. And one thing is, I would say try to attend hackathons more. And hackathons is like one of the experiences where that's where you actually think about coding for a cause, really. Because if not, you're just coding for just like time pass or just for the sakes of your normal university projects or something random. But I think in hackathons, it's really amazing. They give you like this problem statement, you have a certain timeline, you have your best friends with you, and you can just stay the entire 24 hours just building something cool. That's super amazing for me. And I think people really need to participate in more hackathons. But I don't blame them because it's really hard to find hackathons in Hyderabad right now. Even I'm trying to search to participate in more hackathons in Hyderabad. Recently, me and a few friends participated in a hackathon and we came on second place. So that's one thing. And we again, we're still finding, we can't find more hackathons. So I think even companies or universities should host more hackathons here and there. Like, yeah, that's one
Oh,
thing. Participate in more hackathons. And one thing is to find internships and all. I'd suggest freelancing. That seems kind of obvious. That seems kind of workable for me because it seems better when you actually go to a company. We do some freelancing work for them, just on like a hourly base or something. Do some freelancing, and then later on, the company seems like if this app or freelancing task you have done could be uphold, it could be only by you because you know how you got around that code better. So that's one thing. So freelancing really helps you a lot, and always trying to message co-founders, maybe emails, or try to do as many opportunities as you can. So, and yeah, that's all I can say. Just maintain, just do more projects, do more, be in more hackathons, do more. If you find something interesting, just do it. That's all I really can say. But maintain a good profile. Just always post. But if you have done something cool, just post about it on in your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, just somewhere where people can actually reach out to you on that. So yeah, that's only tips and tricks I guess I can say for now.
great, great. We'll move on to one more section, which is basically about your achievements and recognition and all of that. So, you've of course been recognized by a lot of the media. You've gotten a lot of recognition for being one of the youngest people to become a data scientist in the world. So, about that, you achieved this at quite a young age, and since that time, of course, you've gotten quite a bit of media attention as well. So how did you manage to make sure all of the fame that you're getting does not really interfere with the work you're doing? Because it can tend to often get you a little off track and distracted, and I for one have witnessed that personally. So how did you navigate through that, and did you feel at all that it was causing any disturbance, or it was just like another addition to your life that you didn't have to bother about? When it comes to work, you're just working. What was it like?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really had a problem with like I know I got into a lot of interviews here and there because I remember like my whole even now it's just all media is just coming for like interviews, and I've been published in newspaper like multiple times, and I think it's awesome. I mean, I love the cloud here and there. So I don't blame it. It's still cool for me. So it's really bad way to put it, but yeah, I still have a cloud here and there from what I get, and yeah, people
Motivation.
definitely do appreciate.
Great.
Yeah, Yeah, people do appreciate me here and there, which I'm super thankful and glad for. And I never really seen it as an interference, but I see it as like a supporting hand because when I feel like I'm more recognized out there, I think people come up with more opportunities. So yeah, I don't blame it. I love media attention.
That's amazing. Yeah. Good for you, and as you should, because you deserve all that for all the hard work you put in. So that's great for you. Amazing. Uh, all right, I think we're nearing towards the end of the podcast. Uh, what do you want to convey? Anything else? I think we've conveyed a lot of the technical aspects, the whole growth process, and how do you approach companies, stuff like that. We've done all of that. So anything else you want to put forward to the audience, you can choose to do it now. We also discussed tips and tricks, but anything you want to discuss, the stage is yours.
Oh yeah. I mean, mostly, at this point, I know, I think I think, like, I came across a lot that people are super scared about, like, AI and all. So I'll just give, like, a small, like, my 5 cents on that. But yeah, I think one thing is that people have this intention that AI is going to replace them, and I don't see such thing happening and anytime soon, really, because AI isn't exactly developed to take over jobs, but it's just a helping hand really. So I know like one of my friend who said this quote. He said this quote thing where AI does not take away a job, but a person using AI would take away a job. So that sounded like super cool for me. So I use it in conversations here and there. But yeah, so all I'm gonna say is that you don't really have to fear about concepts like ChatGPT or generative AI in general taking care of it, like taking away jobs, because there's still a lot more things where AI has to be efficient on, like things like not exactly hallucinating on answers. So you don't really have to be impact on saying AI is going to take away jobs. There's still a lot of time for that. Just yeah, do what you do better, but try to think where you can use AI tools. And that doesn't mean to take on like ChatGPT courses. Then please do not take them. And I know people tend to take buy this ChatGPT course and all, and I would say just those are like really big red flags. I don't exactly encourage on taking those sort of courses. ChatGPT on a mere hand is just this concept of getting an answer in the right terms, or at least solving that query in the right terms. So just using that perspective, and yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say in that case.
Right, amazing. And I think so. My parents are in the field of AI. They keep telling that even if AI takes away these many jobs, it will give a lot more for those who want to work on it. So
Of course,
that's
yeah.
another perspective on the same thing. That's amazing. I think we had a great session today. A lot of people benefited from this podcast and will continue to do so throughout this. People interested can reach out to Siddharth via Instagram, I mean, via LinkedIn. We'll put his LinkedIn link in the description. I hope that's okay with you, Siddharth.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and any other links that you want to share, we will be putting that as well. So if you all want to reach out and check out his profile, we will be putting those in the comments. Thank you so much once again, Siddharth. It was amazing having you on the
Thank
show
you.
today. You are the fourth guest
That's my
on the
pleasure.
series, and I'm very happy to have done it with a very motivated individual like you. And I
Thank you.
myself am very inspired, so I'm sure my audience is going to be very inspired and learn a lot from your journey. So thank you so much once again, and that'll be
Thank
it.
you.
Do you want to share any last words before we leave?
Yeah, thank you so much again, Tarini Sai for having me. And I think the first time I think I heard about cliche, not a cliche conversation before you actually approach it, because I saw like I remember seeing Shark Tank of like Anushka Jolly, and also I did some research on her and I found her episode like a week ago. So that was kind of cool, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it's super cool. I even seen her conversation, super cool, and yeah, I think you're also like a really good host. All the questions you asked were like super cool. So thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. We'll end that show on that note. Goodbye, everyone. Have a nice day.